Hey, first person, and welcome whenever you come on. I think I'll shout out the first person. But right now, we're just waiting for. Ah, one. Somebody's on. Good to see you. Three, four. Build up the numbers. Give me a thumbs up, like. Let me know you're there. Welcome, welcome. If this is not your first time joining me on Glue Wednesday, thank you. Know that you are early. It starts at 12. And my belief is I don't penalize the people who are on time. So, but you're early, so I don't penalize the people who are on time. I will be starting at 12 o'clock. So if you didn't get your tea or your coffee or your water or whatever you need, go get it now. You got a couple of minutes. What is it? We got. Oh, I can't see. I can't see the clock. Okay, we got 4 minutes. So thanks for joining. And I actually don't see any names. I see the thing that says 4 people are on, or maybe it means 4 people have viewed. So once I see your name, especially during this little down, hey, CVK Production. What's up, Zach? See, it should figure that you would be first. I love you. Yeah. Hey, Asha. Oh my God. Yeah, Asha Brent. Good to see you. All right. Yeah. Oh, see, now I'm getting the hang of this. Hey, Bob. Hey, Smitty. Good to see you. Yeah. Cruise on, my brother. Cruise on. Good memories. I've been in touch with Nina and Phil, and so all is well with them too. So glad to see you there as well. Cool. All right, what we got here? We got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So again, you do your last minute stuff at 12 or 11 o'clock if you're in the Central Time, 9 o'clock if it's Western Time. And then who knows, I got a friend who came on from Norway last week. And I think that they are 6 hours ahead of us. So that was good. So yeah, but I start on the top of the hour. And again, I do that. As people will end up looking at the archives, if you're in the speaking business, or if you're ever in a situation where you need to speak at a career day, or if you've been hired to speak at a luncheon, or some kind of event, be on time. And that shouldn't just have to do with speaking. That's the mantra that I hold in the speaking business. But whatever business you're in, excuse me, you hear the term customer service. Being on time is really, really important, and in fact, that's going to be one of the topics we touch on today. So, that's a spoiler alert for you. You get a little extra for being here early, but it's good. Hey, what's up, Lamarage? Romeo, my boy. Julie, good to see you. All right, good to see you. And I've been checking out your live feeds, Romeo. Romeo Turner, that's Laraj. That's one of my mentees from the Boys and Girls Club. What's up, Ryan? B fam, good to see you. Everything is good. Hope the girls are fine and the family is great. All right. Oh God, what's that? Yeah, Sporty for President 2020. Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Wait, if I had 20/20/20 vision, I wouldn't be wearing these glasses. Remember, these are not cosmetic. I can't see. My sight is not that good. Hey, we're 1 minute to starting out, y'all. So get ready. Again, I don't penalize the people who are on time, and I thank those of you who come early. And so we will, when 12 hits, bam, we going. And Romeo, that's something I taught you. I was just thinking about you the other day, in fact, because, actually the Martin Luther King Day. Hey, Lenny, because we never did get a chance to do that speech that we worked on together. That would have been fabulous. So, hey. That's what life is about, is making things happen and experiencing them. So, and working with us. And good memories, too, right? Oh, man, we're probably seconds away, because I still see, I'm looking at the clock on the computer. I still see 11:59. So when it hits 12, oh, there it is, 12. Hey, welcome. Yeah, maybe we'll do that one day, Romeo. Cool. Anyway, welcome to Glue Wednesday. If this is your first time with Glue, Glue, God's love undoes everything. And it doesn't mean that it tears things apart, but that it brings things together. And so I look at Wednesday. A lot of people say Wednesday is hump day because we want to get over the hump of the week. But I say it's glue day because it's the middle of the week and it brings the opening and the closing of the week together. So sometimes we just need to focus on the glue. What is it that keeps us together so that we can get to the end of the week, so that we can get to the beginning of the week? See, so the glue is important. One thing I mentioned that I'm going to always do is shout out people who get my books and support me that way. So I do appreciate that. Hey, Geraldine. So my first shout out this week is going to go to Kathy Laurenhue, good friend of mine from AATH, who is now the proud owner of my book that I talked about last week, I Found Out I'm Dying. A celebration of life. It's about the fact that physically we're all going to die one day. Get over it. You won't be here. So, and then I say, whenever someone does get a book, by the way, every purchase of a book comes with a free autograph. Okay, so whenever someone has the book, I'm going to dedicate a poem to them. So, based on our spirit. So, here's the dedication I want to give to Kathy, because one of the things that we talked about was patience. We had lunch together, and hadn't seen her in a while, and she talked about how sometimes she gets tired of being patient. Tired of being patient. So I'm going to read a poem in this book that deals with patience, because again, even though the title is I Found Out I'm Dying, the subtitle is a celebration of life. It's not about dying at all. It's about what we need to do to keep life going and to keep celebrating. So this one is, and all of my poems, I try to make sure that I tell people why I wrote the poem, because poetry is so subjective. And, you want somebody to get it right. You ever been in a poetry class where someone says, well, I think the poet is saying this, and then someone else says, I think they're saying that, and then the teacher gets the last vote and says, this is what the poet is saying? And that's not always fair. The teacher doesn't necessarily get it. Okay, so here's the introduction, and this is the poem that I use to talk about patience. The poem is called Fruit of Thy Labor. Fruit of Thy Labor is a poem about the fact that we sometimes place a higher value on our time than we do on someone else's life. Don't think so? Think about that time you were more concerned about someone being late to meet you than you were about whether or not they were in an accident trying to hurry because they knew how you didn't like to wait. And I'm not saying that you ought to take your time and let the world be thankful that you plan on showing up. What I am saying is that I believe you honestly make every effort to be on time when we meet. So if you're not here, my first concern is for your safety. I wrote this poem while waiting to see a potential client with whom I did not have an appointment. He had agreed to see me at the request of a counterpart who I did have an appointment with, who felt my services might be more appropriate for this other department. I waited an hour and a half for this meeting to start and for his meeting to finish so he could meet with me. But instead of focusing on the 90 minutes that I waited, I focused on the 39 years I had waited to talk to someone about paying me for my gift. So this poem is called Fruit of Thy Labor. You see, actually it was no work at all. Instead, it was a blessing, a forthcoming, a catastrophe. You had me wait patiently for what seemed like minutes, though actually a lifetime of ascension. And as I learned to take another step, my footing found solid ground. For my faith neither feared nor acknowledged seepage. My reward rejoiced in hidden silence as my request spake not in words, but comfortably in the word. My cup is a basket, is a tub, is a river, and its running is a flow that remains calm by your touch. Take your time and enjoy life. More importantly, enjoy it today, for today is what counts. So, Kathy, thank you for being a proud owner now of I Found Out I'm Dying. And again, as I say, whenever you purchase one of our books or enjoy one of them, I'll dedicate a poem to you from that book. And patience is something that we all need to be conscious of. I know we run into a lot of things, and people say, "Oh, I'm just so stressed out." Sometimes we think that the best way to get out of being stressed out is to rush something. But truly, the best way to get out of being stressed out is to be patient with yourself. Every month, the third Wednesday of every month, I speak with a fifth grade class. I volunteer to speak with a fifth grade class at a school that I've adopted. And so today I was talking about to these fifth grade kids about mindful meditation. and just reminding them to be calm and to slow down. Okay. Meanwhile, another thing that I talked about last week is how my good mentor, speaking mentor, Tracy Brown, had asked in a post, what do you have as a theme for the year? And I realized that I didn't have a theme. And so I meditated and I prayed on it and I came up with a theme for the year. So my theme for this year is back to basics. Back to basics, which is why I just read that poem to you, because the basic is that when God first gifted me to say to me, you are going to be a motivational speaker, what he actually said was, you're going to use your poetry, you're going to read your poetry as a way to uplift people's lives and help them find joy. So that's why every week I'll be sharing my poetry with you and telling you how to use the poetry. Because a lot of times people say, oh, poetry doesn't work. That wouldn't apply to me. Sure it would, if you're open to finding out. And that's what life is about, just stretching that a little. Then I ended up talking to another friend of mine, Katie Posey Tony, who's a good friend of mine here in Charlotte. And she was telling me how one of the things that she has is a Bible verse as her annual verse that she used to get her through the year. So I said, oh my goodness, that's right. I don't have a Bible verse. So that was not that hard for me to come up with one. But so here's my spiritual fuel. And so my biblical verse that's going to get me through the year is actually comes from Proverbs 4:23 through 27. And this is the verse that I'll use to get me through the year. And it says, above all else, guard your heart, for it affects everything you do. Avoid all perverse talk, stay far from corrupt speech. Look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet, then stick to the path and stay safe. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. So the reason that I had chosen that, and it was easy for me to choose it, because one of the things that I announced on my Facebook feed back in September and October, probably August, when all the presidential elections were going on, is that I was not going to post negativity on my site. And that's the one thing I don't do. I don't post negativity on my site. So like what my scripture said, what it say? It said, avoid all perverse talk, stay away from corrupt speech. You come to my site, you're going to get something positive. And that's what it's all about. So that's my scripture that's getting me through the year. So thanks, Katie, for reminding me of that. Now, last week I told you I was going to New York to celebrate the 10th anniversary of my mother's death. And we came up, I can't end up coining a phrase. We call it a Miss Her-versary. So we had her Miss Her-versary last Saturday. And, I know a lot of people say, oh, my prayers are with you. I know what you're going through. I know you don't, because I was going through a ball. I had a great time. I came from a family where we've always done a lot of laughing, and we've always found ways to celebrate life and enjoy it while it was here. So that's what we did. But, everybody grieves differently. So if you were with us last week, I remember I said, this is the before picture of me before I go to New York to celebrate my mother's death. And now this week is the after picture. So I'm going to tell you about what we did. Okay. And so one of the things that I decided to do was, let me see first of all, here was my goal for going to New York. All right. First of all, my goal was, I fly into LaGuardia Airport. There's a bus, the 60 bus that takes you across 125th Street in Harlem, and I was going to be staying with my sister. So, my goal was, number one, to take the bus across 125th Street and get off and go to one of the street vendors and get me some cologne. I like to get the cologne because I like to use the oils. If you have the technology that can smell right now, you see that I smell pretty good. Okay, so get a little closer to your screen and sniff. I'll blow it a little bit. Okay, all right. Anyway, so one of my goals was to get some cologne. My second goal was to have pizza. I wanted to get to New York to have pizza. It's nothing like New York pizza. My third goal was to, once I finished getting my cologne, was to walk a few blocks to the Spanish restaurant and get me some Spanish food because I like Spanish food. It's a place called Tropical something. But I knew I was going to go there and get my Spanish food. And meanwhile, my sister was heating up some pasteles, which is another Spanish food that I would be able to eat when I got home to her place. Then I also wanted to get beef patties. I like Jamaican beef patties. So that was my goal in terms of my trip to New York. And then my other goal, of course, was to go and celebrate my mother on Saturday. So before we went out to the funeral, out to the gravesite on Saturday, I had thought about on the way I had come up with this idea. I said, well, when we go out to the gravesite, what I'm going to do is read from my book, Stuff Happens. Because remember I told you this week we're going to talk about stuff, S-T-U-F-F, situations that unleash our focus and faith. Because the thing is, the first chapter there are 4 chapters and 4 topics in Stuff. And the first one is about my mother's death. And so I had written about it, and I had said to myself, okay, I'm going to start a tradition with my family, and on this 10th Miss Herversary, I'm going to read from Stuff Happens and talk to, and give them a picture of that last chapter in her life, because actually my family, I saw the very last part. Everybody in your family sees a different part. So that's why it's important to communicate, and not just your family, but all the families that you have, your work family, your sports team, your organization, all your families see things differently. So when we communicate, we get a look at how the whole picture comes together, okay? So I decided I was going to read from the book. But then I thought about it. I said, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I kind of decided to back off. And then my sister encouraged me. She said, no, you really should. And actually, then what I realized, so when she encouraged me to do it, what I did was that Saturday morning in my meditation, opening my day in prayer, I decided I was just going to read it anyway. And there was something that I wrote in the chapter that that team, food. There was something that I wrote in the chapter that made me realize that I really did need to keep with my original plan to read from the book to my family. And here's that part that I wrote in the book and because once we stood around the gravesite, in fact, let me tell you who was at the gravesite. It was myself, my sister Zetine, her 2 children, her son Tyvon, her daughter Vilori's daughter Damani. So we had 2 generations there. Then also my spiritual sister Goya and our spiritual brother Earl. And so that was us that was there on the first round. And the reason I say the first round, because as we were leaving, my brother Vonnie and his friend Danette, they were coming in. And so it was great to switch that off as well. But here's what I had written in the book that reminded me of why it was important for me to read the book to my family. It says, on that Wednesday, as Leah's hospital stay extended, my 14-year-old niece, Nashay, texted to say that she had a half day in school and was on her way to the hospital to see her grandmother. As it turned out, Leah was having one of her more painful days and did not feel up to the potentially emotional visit. Meanwhile, knowing it wouldn't be long before my sister's turn to be on watch duty, I decided to meet Nashay at the hospital entrance. I explained Leah's preference to not see her and so offered to take her to lunch. In my mind, thinking this would be a good way to spend quality time with her rather than making her feel she wasn't old enough to be a part of the experience. How often do we make that mistake? Thinking we need to shield a child or someone from family trauma. In many cases, we are putting up a shield that represents a barrier that tells them how weak they are and denies that they have a right to experience the truth. Instead, they must stand behind the bubble of false protection that we put up and feel what we prescribe them to feel. Be honest with children so that they can be honest about what they're experiencing. And see, that, I realized, I needed to be honest with my family because I'm the one that saw my mother take her last breath. And so I wanted to share that experience and all that had led up to it. And then fast forward, that was Saturday. Fast forward on Sunday, as I was taking my sister Zatina and Damani, her granddaughter, my great niece, to church. As we're walking down the hall, we get in the elevator, and Damani says to me, Uncle Sporty, how come grandmother had to die? And so I had to share that with her. I couldn't say, oh, you're too young. I can't talk to you about that. And I just said to her, I said, well, she died because she had cancer. And I said, and cancer, I said, it's just like you have a cold right now, and your grandmother, my sister, gave you cough syrup this morning to deal with your cold to help you get better. Well, cancer is a sickness that they didn't have the medicine to help your grandmother get better. And she was okay with that explanation. So, you can find a way to explain things to children. Don't decide that they can't handle it. Their mind is trying to they can't handle it. Their mind is trying to get around it. And if you don't give them a tool, then they'll get to the point where they totally can't handle it. They just don't know how. So don't decide that they can't handle it. Find a way to help them handle it. Put it in their words and help them be comfortable. And I think I was able to do that. So we went on, and one of the things that I also ended up doing with that situation in my life, I ended up writing a speech for Toastmasters about my mother's final time, her final chapter. And I called, which is actually the title of the book, I called the speech, Stuff Happens. So I'm going to give you just the first part and the closing of the speech because I want to make a point with that as well. So the first, the speech is called Stuff Happens. I don't know if you know, but we've all got stuff and have been through some stuff before. Good stuff, bad stuff, fun and sad stuff. Old stuff, new stuff, black and blue stuff. Sometimes lying to you stuff. Your stuff, my stuff, our stuff, their stuff, whose stuff and whose stuff. Soft stuff and rough stuff. Mild, easy, and tough stuff. And the truth is, it's usually hard stuff. The joy is, it's testimonial stuff, and it happens. You see, the stuff I'm talking about are the STUFF, situations that unleash our focus and faith. And my stuff began on Sunday morning, January 14th, 2007, at around 2:46 a.m., 14 minutes to 3. Stop right there. Saturday was the 10th missanniversary, right? January 14th was the day that my mother died, and it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. But what I did, if you're ever creating a speech, by the way, so as I was crafting the speech, notice I said that it started at 2:46. Her time of death was 3 o'clock. So I put it started at 2:46, which was 14 minutes before 3. Since it was January 14th, I put a lot of stuff in my speech about the number 14. See, so that's one of the things that you can use when you're writing. If you're creating a speech or an announcement or something, find the commonality, the common thing in there and make that work for you. So that's what I always do. So I use the number 14 several times in my speech as I went on. Okay, so fast forwarding toward the end of the speech, or actually in the middle of the speech, and it says, STUFF. It says, so let's flip the F's first and look at your faith, FAITH, feeling as if there's hope. Know that the only thing you cannot do is give up. We all know the cliche, when one door closes, another will open. But I've got the new one for you, and that is when one door closes, go for the windows. Go for the windows because there are usually more windows than there are doors. Dare we call it the window of opportunity? Go for the windows because you should always put yourself in position to make a choice because you make good choices. Go for the windows because you've got a lot of stuff to choose from. And while making your choices, commit to your focus. FOCUS. Finding ourselves creates unlimited success. Focus on you and let other people come into focus. When you focus on you, you'll see who wants to help and who wants to hinder your progress. You can't help anyone if you don't help yourself. And you can't help anyone who doesn't want your help. There's another one of those easy cliches that say, you have no idea of just how powerful you are. The truth is, you may not know, but you should have an idea. You've got to know and put you first. And again, it doesn't push people away putting yourself first. It pulls people to you because they see that you may have the answer and something that may be able to help them. So then I go on to say, at first, I thought it was a curse, being the person to see that my mother take her last breath. Then I found myself in that zone of what I call an occupational hazard. As a motivational speaker, I had to find a way to turn this into a positive. So instead of believing that this was a tragedy, I drew upon my faith to realize that God's gift was to keep Leah alive until I got back from Chicago and let Zet finish her shift, because no one else in my family could have handled Leah's last chapter. I understood that I had had a mother and parents longer than each of my younger siblings. I recognized that I could not restart her life, but that I'd have to start mine without her. I recognized that I could not restart her life, but I had to start mine without her. And that's one way that I handle death and loss. You know, you can't bring somebody back, but you do have to go on. So you just have to start a new life. So here's the poem, a quick poem that I actually created based on that, and it's called The Gift of a Testimonious Curse. The gift of a testimonious curse. Or is it the curse of a testimonious gift? Or is it relevant? Or is it irrelevant? Because it is God's will, and you will die. All we should question is, will you live? You will die, but all we should question is, will you live? Are you living right now? Are you so caught up in the pain and problems that you're having that you're pulling yourself down and you're pulling yourself closer to death? Because stress and heart can get you to a heart attack. I'm not a doctor, and that can be, you know, your end of your actual demise. So it's so important to do that. So then what I did is I took faith, you know, so think back to my faith and focus. And so I look back at my entrepreneurial career, and normally when you go out as an entrepreneur, what do the people say? They say, well, you're stepping out on faith. So that, you know, so that's fine. Faith, F-A-I-T-H, feeling as if there's hope. But here are two other things I did with faith. One, I took the word fear, because when someone goes out on an entrepreneurial career and they say you're stepping out on faith, they say, aren't you afraid? So I took fear and made fear F-E-A-R. Faith eventually attracts resources. Faith eventually attracts resources. That's how I deal with fear. Because as you're afraid of something, you're normally afraid because it's new. And so you may walk with a little bit more trepidation. But actually, as you become comfortable and you have faith in what you're doing, you attract resources where people say, wait, here, let me help you. And let me make that walk easier for you. So that's one thing I did with faith. Then I also use fail, F-A-I-L, fail, which to me is faith activated in loss. Faith activated in loss. Because when you lose something, that's where your faith has to kick in. And, you know, you have to show that you believe in who you are and that you're going to be able to get through. So faith activated in loss. And I let that move me on to the last part of that first chapter, which I actually used to dedicate to my father. Because, like I said, I realized I had a mother and parents longer than my younger siblings. And now that my mother was gone, she joined my father being gone because he died in 2003. So here's how the book goes on. On one of his HBO specials, Chris Rock talked about how men rarely get their proper recognition. Yo mama are fighting words. Jokes about mama's baby, papa's maybe. The most confusing day in America? Father's Day. Even the song titles. I'll Always Love My Mama by the Intruders. Sadie by the Spinners. While men get Papa Was a Rolling Stone by the Temptations. Well, not every father is a deadbeat dad. And like mothers, they don't get a rule book on parenthood either. So I dedicate this to the men. It's called Somebody's Father. Your 9-month wait showed no physical signs. Your nourishment was indirect. You waited in the wings to teach morals and values, to cultivate self-respect. You were the final word, even as the first word. The knee that offered stability, the shoulder of security, the spirit that broke each fall. the goal to reach for approval since the day your child could crawl. You were not seen every waking moment, but your presence was felt each morning, noon, and night. As your child is blessed to grow older, be sure to thank God for your foresight. Now, I actually don't have that in a book. I used it and created it as a Father's Day card, just using my poetry. But again, that's called Somebody's Father. And so I go on to say in the book, no, my father didn't stay and watch me grow up through every stage of my life. And he's never told me he loved me, to my knowledge. He believed his job was as disciplinarian. He had never met his father and had chosen to damn his mother for forcing him to be the man of the house at 12 years old. And I could go on and on about what he did and didn't do, yet I'll stop here and say that he is my model for manhood. Let me further say that more than half of what he taught me were things that I wouldn't do, as he was often my biggest negative role model. But sometimes our greatest lessons are those that signal the road we choose not to take. Bullet point. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews whom I choose. Oops, something says, okay. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews whom I choose to tell and show them that I love them. I chose to coach and referee community league basketball for 11 years. Without threatening or berating my players, while reminding them that another man was interested in their developing morals and values besides their father. I chose to volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club and teach them how bright their future can be. I chose to speak at senior citizen centers and remind them that their past has shed light on our present. I choose to thank my teachers in retrospect through motivating those who teach today. I chose to do all of the things and more because I believe my father would have done them if his life presented a different set of options. It's not my call to forgive him for choosing to leave when I was too young to understand what went on between him and my mother, nor is it my call to forgive him once I understood how and why he made the choice that he did. Yet I can't thank him enough for taking advantage of the greatest option in my life, his part in creating me. He had Alzheimer's at the time of my writing and dedicating that poem to him. So it was okay for me to talk about how much I loved him and recognized how hard he tried to be the father he didn't know how to be. Wonder how he would have reacted had I ever told him. You see, we expect a lot from our parents. How much do we give? Happy Father's Day. So as you can see, when we put them both together, parents, they don't get a rule book and, on how to raise a child. And children don't come with a rule book on how to be a child. They do the best they can. I don't know what your relationship is with your parents, and I don't say you better get it together. Everybody has the choice and an option. But I've chosen to, again, remember and celebrate my mother and father. I had a good mother and father. And like I said, the most important thing is I'm here. They got me here. Sometimes that's all a parent's job is to bring you into the world. My mother used to say, I don't owe you anything. You owe me your life. Wait, now, she's got a million sayings. But find a way to appreciate and celebrate that. And help them, be proud of you in retrospect, because sometimes that's exactly where wisdom lives, is in retrospect. Okay? And so, as I close out our last few minutes, I want to go back to that gravesite and talk about how important it is for us to share with our kids who are working on our legacy. Before I left, this is what Damani gave me as a present for my going away. Two things that she had colored, and she took them off her grandmother's refrigerator to give me. She said, Uncle Sporty, I want you to take this. Now, this one she had already written her name on, and this one she actually had not written her name. So I said to her, oh, wait, you can't give me that one. You haven't autographed it yet. See, I told you haven't autographed it. Again, start to put stuff in children's minds as well. The words are important. And so rather than just telling her to sign it, I want her to hear that you haven't given your autograph. When people write me and using snail mail on it, I say that I live in Penthouse 207. Well, because the apartment complex I'm in is 2 stories, and I'm on the 2nd story. Isn't this the top floor, the penthouse? So, start to do those things and talk into your spirit. That'll help you deal with different stuff and make things happen for you the way you want them to happen, because you have the choice. You've made a lot of good choices in your life. Stop looking at your lack record and start looking at your track record. Because your track record says that you've gone through some stuff and you've handled it. Even when we're in a challenging thing, we say to someone, child, I'm going through some stuff. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm going through. I'm not going to end it. So see that you've already spoken into your spirit and told yourself how good you are. And next week, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on my book, Do You Have Any Idea How Fine You Are? Which is a poetic tribute to women. But what I want to do, the reason I want to do that is because as I was looking for my scripture for the year, for my scriptural theme for the year, I chose the book of Proverbs. And as I was going through the book of Proverbs, one of the things that I noticed? I saw how many references there were to women and their strength in the book of Proverbs. Women are constantly talked about. What's that word you use? Personified. Women are constantly personified as wisdom. Wisdom and women are constantly personified. Women are called the fountain of blessing. And they're called worth more than precious rubies. So next week, that's what I'm going to do, is focus on women. And the book of Proverbs, just show you how many spots they have them there. And that book is Do You Have Any Idea How Fine You Are? Remember, you can go to my site, sportyking.com, put a www in front of it, and any of my books that you buy or purchase, any of the poetry, the CDs and stuff that are there, you'll get a free autograph with every purchase. But also, again, I'll give you a shout out next week as a way, one of my ways of thanking you for supporting my vision and my dream. And as well as find something in that product that I think relates specifically to you. Again, I don't like to group people. I always want to find what's that thing. Everybody says, yeah, we've all got a gift, and then there's always the joke of, yeah, you're unique just like everybody else. But I want to find that thing about you that helps you stand out, because one of my business themes is that we're all an important piece of the puzzle. And whether you think you're a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle, without you, that puzzle is called incomplete. So let's find a way to get your puzzle together and get you focused on the piece that you hold, because without you, we can't go on. Thank you so much for enjoying Glue. I appreciate the thumbs up, the love, those of you who stayed with me, those of you who came early. And those of you who are watching on the archives, we'll see you next week when we talk about, do you have any idea of just how fine you are? Thumbs up and hearts to all of you. Thank you. That's a great way to close out. It's like the fireworks. Oh, man. I love you all and really appreciate you. Definitely share it. I appreciate it. I'm going to let it click, click, click. I'm going to let all those hearts, and thank y'all. I'm going to let all of those go up until it just cuts itself off. And see how appropriate we got all the hearts, because we're coming up on February. Oh, by the way, happy Father's Day, happy Mother's Day, happy Valentine's Day, happy Thanksgiving, happy New Year's. Let's not wait for a man-made calendar to tell us what to celebrate. Let's celebrate one another as often as possible, and then consistently. If you missed that, coin the phrase happy Miss Her-versary. So whatever number of years it's been that your mother's been gone, it's a Miss Her-versary. And then your father, Miss Him-versary. Because everything is an anniversary and a reason to celebrate. Thanks again. God bless you. And I'm going to wait till 12:45 to cut it off and just enjoy all of those hearts. Oh, y'all gave me all the hearts. So we're cool. Over and out. Oh, quick ending shout out to my barber, Annette, because I know she's on it. You see how she did a good job lining me up and getting to do, because Annette's watching us. Boy, I didn't like the way your hair looked. I said, well, Annette, hey, you're on my team. And so if you're on my team, your job is to make my hair look good on the broadcast. Do your thing. And she did her thing. Thank y'all. Oh, click. Doesn't that get you? Oh, y'all click it. Hey, God is good. God is good. And I'm just riding his coattails. Thank you, Pam. Yeah, yeah, I see you clicking away. Yeah, well, that's one of my families there in Chicago. And oh my God, see, I told you we get international. Abdul coming in from Africa, right? Oh man. Thanks everybody. Over and out. I'm gone. I'll see you next week. Have a good one and keep the glue together.